Welcome to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and I am thrilled to have you join me on this transformative journey. You see, every day we dive into a powerful conversation about self-discovery, healing, and empowerment. This podcast is brought to you by Ask Nyomi and Elevate Me Self-Discovery, where we believe that loving yourself is the first step to living a fulfilling life. You can expect insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories. Plus, we'll occasionally welcome special guests who will share their unique perspectives on self-love and personal growth. So get comfy, grab your favorite beverage, and let's embark on this journey together. Because it's time to embrace the beautiful person that you are. So let's elevate our lives one episode at a time. Now let's get started. All right, my beautiful people. Well, welcome back to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks. And as always, I am so grateful that you are here, taking this time to just pour into yourself. Well, February is all about cultivating self-compassion. We call that the art of loving yourself. And today's conversation is something that I know that all of us need to hear. And that's the battle between the inner critic and the inner ally. How many times have we told ourselves, I'm not good enough, or I never get it right? That little voice with those doubts, that one that criticizes, that inner critic. But if I told you that we also have an inner ally, that voice that encourages us, that nurtures us, that reminds us that we are worthy just as we are. The one that say, you go girl, or you go boy, you got this queen, or you got this king. Yeah, well, today we are diving deep into how to transform all of the negative voices into their supports and uplift us. And I couldn't have this conversation, without my brother, my friend, and our resident therapist, Dr. Will Washington. And we would definitely bring Dr. Will Washington, when we take this quick break. All right, it's your girl, Goddess Nyomi Banks here on the Season of Self-Love podcast. We'll be right back.
Washington Wellness Institute focuses on healing always. For me, if I look good, then I feel good. If I feel good, then I share the good. If I share the good, then I celebrate the good. If I celebrate the good, then I live the good. So I can be paid to be my greatest. But I have to learn the good to be the good.
So, what does it take to be the greatest? It's as simple as a free 15-minute consultation. Be kind to yourself and heal always.
Hey, it's your girl, Goddess Nyomi Banks, and make sure you tune in every Thursday night to Ask Nyomi Bridging the Gap podcast, where we talk about everything from love, sex, relationship, cultural differences, and so much more. By bridging the gap between them all, and we even talk about spiritual uplifting. You need to stop by. Me and Dr. Mike, as well as the BTG crew. We have some amazing guests that come through. You never know. Just make sure you tune in Thursday night, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Go to xnyomi.com and tell them Nyomi teach you. All right, but welcome back. Hey, Dr. Will.
It's so good to be present with you today. I'm present and powerful.
I know that's right, present and powerful. So are you ready for this conversation?
I am, and this is a big topic you're doing.
Yeah, we have to.
Yeah, especially during this time.
Yes, we do. We do. But my beautiful, before we get into it, I want to take a moment to just get ourselves grounded, to ground ourselves, all right? So my beautiful people out there, you know how we do it. I want you to please close your eyes and get in a comfortable position, all right? Take a deep breath in. Filling your body with calmness. And exhale, releasing any self-judgment. Now I want you to imagine a mirror in front of you. And this mirror doesn't just reflect your face. It reflects your thoughts, your words, your beliefs about yourself. What do you see? Is your reflection kind, gentle, and understanding? Or is it harsh, critical, and full of judgment? Now, with every breath in, I want you to imagine washing away the self-doubt. And with every breath out, I want you to invite in self-love. Now repeat to yourself, I am worthy. I am enough. And I am learning to be kind to myself. I want you to take one more deep breath in. And when you are ready, gently open your eyes. All right, my beautiful people. If you are new here to the Season of Self-Love podcast, this is something that we do every day, Monday through Friday, just to help ground us before we get into our topic at hand. All right, Dr. Will, let's get into it. Let's talk
Sounds good
about
to me.
this inner critic. This inner critic. What does it even come from?
Mm, that's such a beautiful start. It comes from everything that you've come from. And so we don't even, let's just break down what does it even mean to be a critic, right? Usually when you think about a critic, you don't even think of your parents even being critics, right? We don't think about that. You think of like a food critic or
Mhm.
a movie critic,
Right.
one that takes a substance, a content, a media, and then they break it down into how limiting it is, how it missed certain aspects, and it's all based upon usually their opinion or their own cultural expertise on something. And so it's an opinion that is very targeted.
Yeah.
And so that critic, being your own critic, means that you have become your own expert of yourself, and you've decided to dismantle your own existence.
Mm.
So it's a very targeting behavior to your own self perception. But you have to ask yourself, how did you learn to judge yourself? So
Mm.
I think that's where we should start. It's like, where did you even learn to judge yourself? Where did you learn to break yourself down? Who taught you how to break yourself down? Right?
Yeah.
These learned behaviors that were not yours.
Yeah. You know, the crazy thing is because sometimes we don't realize how much power that's in those voices that speaks
Mm-hmm.
to us. Again, this is why self-love, the season of self-love was created. It's so we can break all of those nuance from others that's been put on us. When I sit back and I think about parents, I think about our parents, first of all, let's go there. And you think about what was taught to them, that language, that attitude that was taught to them. They didn't have anything else but to teach us that, in them
Mm-hmm.
striving for perfection within themselves. So
Yeah.
that criticism that they give us is that same criticism that they give to themselves that they don't listen to. So they look at us as little people.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to make that perfect version of them. You understand what I'm saying? It's
Yes.
like when you really sit down and you really think about it. That's why that book, The Four Agreements that I read a few years ago, that book was just so important for me for my connection and my conversation with my daughters because it made me realize, like, wait, hold on.
Mm-hmm.
That same thing that was happening to me, unbeknownst to my parents and even loved ones around, I kind of put that on them. And so I have to change the way that I speak to them to help to nurture their own self critic within themselves. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I also recognize that even especially in Black culture,
Mhm.
we have parents that are very harsh, very critical of us. And it's not that they want to be, it's because for their survival and culturally, our survival required us to be that intense,
Yeah.
or else everybody would be hurt. And so there's a collective responsibility, and what would come off as targeting or critical was actually a face of survival. And
Yeah.
so, I always think about how parents, they always want to give their children what they never had. And it's like, no, don't give your child what you never had. Give your child what they need, right? That's your own shame and guilt that you got, that you came from. Your child is actually, their baseline is at the highest of where you ended.
Yeah.
So it's the perspective shifting is so important. And we have created a lot of damaging beliefs that we
Yeah.
have to undo.
Yeah. We do. You know, just right now, just the energy of this world. not just America, but of this world, is so disheartening.
Mm,
It's like what we
yeah.
read in the history books. It just feels like it's coming back around, you know?
Hmm.
But let me tell you what I did realize out of all of this with my eyes wide open is that, sorry, but we Black folks are very gifted and very powerful people because it's been done so many times to keep us down. Even
Mhm.
when we built ourselves up from nothing at a deficit, but they steady keep telling us that we are
Mm.
not worthy of. And it's like, how dare you say that? And so when we talk about that inner critic and where it was built from, it was built from there too. It was
Yes.
built from there.
It was
But
institutionalized. It was constructed,
yes,
right?
yeah. And it's
Hmm.
like, how do we help guide our people from out of that? How do we
Yes.
come from that? Because if they really look at it and really look at themselves, I had this conversation with one of my girlfriends last night. If we really look at ourselves and say, "Woo, you are shining and you are so bright. You know you could do this shit. You know you
Hmm.
got this."
Yes.
If we all thought about that and be like, "Yes, we can," and did it, like we don't have to dim nobody's light for our own light to shine.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yes. And I'm so glad you said that because let's just keep it real. The truth is, I don't want to be anything that you're worthy of because I know what you did, right? I learned my history. I know what you did. I don't want to be anything that you're worthy of. I want to be everything that my people are have been worthy of.
Yeah,
And that's the mind shift. That critic was meant to keep us limited and to keep us denied when we didn't even need to be in that door. We
yeah,
didn't need your schools. We'll build our own schools. We didn't need your music. We created our own genres. You created genres for us. Like we didn't even need it. We didn't even call it jazz. You called it that because you didn't even know what to do with it,
mm,
right? So my thing is that what you didn't understand and what we created with beautiful things we created out of this,
yeah,
you had to compartmentalize and deconstruct it, right? Just even the advancement of modern science was built
yeah,
off of black women's bodies
yeah,
because you couldn't even figure it out. So my thing is just when you recognize the true history, I
yeah,
don't need anything that you have.
yeah,
And it's not my responsibility to fix anything that you started.
yeah,
And so learning the responsibility that you have to yourself and to your culture is the first step of undoing that critic
yeah,
that lives so dominantly in around us right now in
yeah,
our society.
yeah,
We have a societal critic that's just over lurking right now. And we can't look at that. That's not the sun.
yeah,
That's not the sun. That's
yeah,
not going to warm us.
right, yeah. As I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, I'm like, we have to bring this back around. We have to bring this back around on going back into our topic of that inner critic. This is where it starts. That is
Hmm.
where it has started for a lot of us. And we're gonna say specifically on Black people, but let's not forget our other counterparts out there. You're a white person, you're a Latino, Asian, or whatever ethnicity that you are. It all comes from somewhere, and believe me, it was given to you. It was inherited to you. Now, that's up to you to figure out who am I, regardless of any
Hmm.
of those things outside. Who am I? So in that meditation, when I say look in the mirror, look at yourself, eye to eye, contact eye to eye with yourself. And who are you? Before we
Hmm.
talk about the values that we choose of who we are, not what somebody else put on you, but who you are. What are those values? What is that core of you? And that's where you start to build that inner critic. But then don't look at that inner critic as always some bad. Don't
Hmm.
always look at it as a bad. Always look at it as a challenge for you to be a better you. You understand what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And that's
Yes.
the thing is that we need to start taking these things that are unpleasant or bad or whatever. And what's that saying? Make lemons into lemonade.
Hmm.
Yeah, we can't go back and change anything. But what we
Right.
gonna do with this now? What we gonna do with that person when we looking in that mirror to ourselves and we say, "Man, you ain't worthy of getting this." How do we counter that? How do we counter that?
Yes. And I think that The inner critic is a call to your purpose. There is something that is meant for you to discover within yourself. And if we do not answer that, we deny our own values,
Mm,
which also takes away our passion. You take away your passion, you lose the identity, because the fight for yourself is met through passion. You have to be passionate about your identity. You have to be passionate about what you believe in. You have to be passionate about your values, because those are the things that identify, those are the check marks, the markers on your greatest improvements in exploration of devotion.
yeah, it is. You know, let me tell you something. I knew we were going to get deep with this conversation, but I didn't think we were going to get this deep with this conversation. And the thing is that we have to. We
We
have
have to.
to. We have to get deep with it. You know, we talk about the inner critic, but also now we got to realize who the inner ally of us are. And really, in that statement that you just made alone, it kind of brought the inner ally up front, because you talked about the purpose. You talked about,
Mhm.
you know, having an understanding what that those words of that inner critic is, and understanding who you are. And that's what you have to do. When we talk about self-love, I'm not talking about bubble baths and
Bath
writing in your
salts and
journal. Yeah,
mhm.
that's
Yeah.
not what I'm talking about. I am truly talking about having that intimate relationship with yourself. Like you are
Very.
in love
Mhm.
with yourself. That whatever anybody say outside of this right here, it don't mean nothing.
Yes. And the truth is that the critic and the ally want the same thing. They want dialogue.
Yeah,
They want the conversation. Why aren't you having that with them?
yeah.
And why don't you want it? Because you know that once you have that conversation, you can't go back anymore. You
Mm,
can't cycle back. You're going to break your cycle. And the thing that you're doing right now, Naomi, is creating cycle breakers. You're supporting the cycle breakers. And there are a lot more cycle breakers in this generation than there ever have been before. There are literally people breaking off into new families, to new paths, to new growth, to new businesses
yeah,
that their family never thought of, never even dreamed of even doing. And it's like, how do you make this new space? So that critic is definitely alive, but the ally is also telling you to break off and do something different at the same
yes,
time.
yes.
You have to have a you have to you gotta have a launching pad. And
Mm,
usually the critic is the pad and the ally is the rocket.
yeah.
And you have to launch off. You have to launch.
I like how you said it. So, you know, let's be real. They could say, Naomi, Dr. Will, that's some good shit, y'all. Excuse me. Type y'all say.
Like
You know, but how do we do that? How do we bring that ally into our inner critic? How do we break down habits?
mm.
What's the technique for us to do that? Where do we begin? Where do we start? What's the first thing that they do, Dr. Will? What can be if they wanted to do it today, what is the first thing that they could do?
First, let's address the first thing. Three simple steps. First, address the critic. What does the critic want from you? We gotta listen. So, what does the critic want from you? Step two, what does the ally want from you? And then lastly, what do you want to be known for? Because that's going to be your destination and your journey. Is learning what do you want to be known for? Because if I ask you what do you want to be known for, I'm not asking you what do you want to be when you grow up. I'm asking you how you want to make money, how you want to make a business. It's what do you want to be known for? Which means that I'm asking you, after all is said and done, you want people to look at you in a certain way. You want to be revered in a certain way. And that critic and ally are going to be your keys to figuring that out. So, what do you want to be known for? So, what is the dialogue from the critic? What is the dialogue from the ally? And what do you want to be known for? If you can hit those three things, you can begin making a routine on what that lifestyle would look like. So, if I know that for me, I just told myself that I want to be known for healing always. If that is my way of doing it, to heal always, I have to understand that the critic in me is going to be like, well, you ain't perfect. You did some wrong stuff. There's people mad at you because of the way you behaved in your relationships. So you're going to have to take accountability for that. I don't want to do it, but I know that I'm going to have to do it. The ally in me is like, do you realize how many people you're going to help if you're strong enough to be with them in the darkest moments of their life? Do you realize how powerful you are going to be as a man to be with other men, women, LGBTQIA plus, anybody, and to know that you are literally holding space that's true and pure? They both want me to be known for being a healer. So I had to make a lifestyle and a routine. That means I got to wake up early and make sure I have my day before I have anybody else's day. I'm eating the right foods. I'm working out. I'm talking to you, Nyomi, when I'm not having a good day, and and making sure that I'm getting checked by you too, because I know you give me both. So I know that I'm right. I'm around the right people, right? I wouldn't be in your frequency unless I was aligned. So at this moment in our time, we are aligned because we have a similar purpose. We're here for the people.
Yeah.
So my thing is once you learn about that dialogue from the critic and the ally, what do you want to be known for? Those are the first 3 steps.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. And just in that moment when you speaking and you talking, I just said, thank you, God. I truly did. I said, thank you, God. Thank you, God, for just answering my prayer. Thank you, God, for Dr. Will being courageous enough to come back and tap me on my shoulder because you seen something bigger. I mean, I see it, but you seen something bigger, and you were able to remove your pride and your ego out the way, unbeknownst to you. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So as you are speaking, before we got on, my prayer was that we can connect and have an intimate conversation, an intimate relationship with ourselves on here, so our listeners can have that same intimate conversation with us.
Yes.
The thing is when we say intimate, excuse my language, it ain't got shit to do with sex.
Not at all.
This is an emotional connection that we need to have with one another, because what that does, that gives us empathy and compassion for one another. That
Yeah.
gets us to where we are serving one another. But we can't do that if we do not love ourselves.
Mm. And I'm telling you, I love myself. I love all my little quirks. But it wasn't until I met you that I realized, I'm like, yes, I'm loving myself, but what does that do to me? I never got to that part until I started listening to your podcast and listening to your words. I'm like, oh, I'm just storing it in a chest, but I'm not actually opening the box. We don't talk about that part. And I'm so glad you actually understand and you can articulate that, because that is something that I never got to really get into before until I started talking to you and listening to you. So that's
Yeah,
a whole nother avenue of self-love that I don't think a lot of us even get to.
no. And when I say I was a child that always say, why? Why this? Why is that chair named a chair? My grandfather thought I was off my damn rocket. He was like, girl, going somewhere. Like, no, for real. Why is that named that? Why? Why? And I remember someone telling me, you always asking that why, and you always being that curious cat, gonna get you in trouble.
Mm.
And it's like, no, because there's a deeper reasoning, a deeper meaning in life on why we put on this earth. It can't just to be making money, having sex, raising kids. That ain't it. It's something
Mm-mm.
much more.
So much deeper.
It's so much
Yes.
deeper. Yeah,
But,
it's
but, but even with your grandfather, though, the inner critic was, don't ask more questions than you're supposed to. Why would you just follow along and don't be a problem? Just go with what they're telling you,
mm-hmm,
right? That's the inner critic,
mm-hmm,
right? And then you were the inner ally being like, no, like, let's explore this. You have the choice to explore this.
mm-hmm.
So even in that moment, that's the example right there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know what? So my listeners out there, first of all, I want to say thank y'all for real. Thank you for continuing to just go on, excuse me, on this journey with us here. And I know as we continue to grow, it's going to morph into something that we truly truly can't even imagine what it is. And I want y'all to look at yourselves in that manner too. That every day is a new day. Every moment is a new moment in your life. So if you felt like something in the inner critic was in your ear less than 5 minutes ago, we're the inner ally. It is always something for that critic. Like Dr. Ware, and I love when you say, what does the inner critic want? What does it want? Sit, talk to it. Okay, well, you know, and then it'll talk to it. And I know y'all person, Nyomi, that's talking to you. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to have those intimate conversations with yourself because it allows you to prepare you for talking to somebody outside of you.
Yes. Mm.
So you
And I
can
think that we don't have that, but we need that. But we need that talk. And I think that like prayer and meditation are great ways to start learning that inner dialogue,
yeah,
because the conversation starts from within,
yeah,
not outside of you.
yeah,
And so, what's the real conversation you're having within your own psyche?
yeah,
A lot of disorders, illnesses, mental health illnesses that we have are exacerbated by negative talk,
yeah.
right? And what is a negative affirmation? Words and statements that remove you from your own manifestations,
Mm-hmm.
right? We have those conversations within us before they're even seen and presented. So we have to be more sensitive about what does that conversation look like within.
I hear you on that one. I do. I totally hear you on that one. I'm gonna share something with you. There's a young man that reached out to me probably about 2 years ago from Ask Naomi. And I remember setting these sessions up with him. And I remember I was like, this is the one that I had wanted you to talk to when you first came on board.
Mm,
And he's now missing in action. I haven't seen him in quite a while. But I remember sitting at my altar and I remember lighting a candle for him because I asked God, why did you bring him to me? You know, I'm not as equipped to deal with the language and the conversations that that person is having with themselves. And I remember God allowed me to sit in on a conversation with him and his therapist that I didn't know that I was supposed to be a part of that conversation with them. He was on, we was having a session and um I guess he was going through a manic breakdown in that moment. I don't know exactly what was happening. But then you hear the therapist talking to him and he repeating everything back that I've been talking to him to the therapist. And the therapist like, well, yes, that's correct. And he said, and it was like a battle with him and the therapist, but the therapist was just saying the same thing that I was saying, but he couldn't receive it from him because something in his mind was telling him that that therapist was not on his side. Does that make sense?
yeah.
And so that right there, I saw that inner battle that he was having with himself. And it was like we both saying the same thing, love. But he couldn't see that. It was and it
Mm,
just um it was so disheartening. And that's why I said
yeah.
I do understand that what you mean by we have to be very, with that because I saw it with my own eyes. So I do receive that from you. Um, and that is when you do need to truly go see a therapist or someone to talk to that can help you to get through that as well. I
Mm,
remember talking to a lady and she said, you need a therapist, you need a life coach, and you need a community that surrounds you because those are teams that can
yes.
help you to be the best person possibly that you can. And I think especially when it comes to the industries of the life coach and the therapist, they need to come together as a common ground. You know what
Mm,
I'm saying? Because the life
yeah.
coach can give you more of a day to day of relatable situations that they've been through that they can help with that to where
I
the
agree.
therapist can give you a more technical medical form to help you to, to do things that even a
To
life
reorient. Mm-hmm.
not be able to where a life coach is able to do something for you that a therapist can't do for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you said that, because one of my golden rules when I do all my consultations, I tell them therapy happens in the session, but healing happens in the application.
Mm-hmm.
I say, your healing is more than 60 minutes on my couch.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, even the quests or the homework I give you is not going to be enough. Even if you take medication, like I'm glad you're taking medication for ADHD, OCD, whatever it may be. But if your medication does not have a lifestyle or routine connected to it, it's useless. You're just drugging yourself out. And so it's important to put a lifestyle into the intentions that you have. And life coaches have the ability to make your lifestyle applicable and tangible. That's their goal, is to help you actively commit to the hurdles that you are crossing over. And so my job is to help reorient that and to allow that's a hurdle or a bump to no longer look like a mountain. And so you can feel seen in that process. And so it's really important to have, like constituents, and just have connection to other professionals.
Yeah.
I have my own. I have a life coach. I have a spiritual director. I have a Nyomi. I have, I have mine. I have my musical gurus that I follow. And I'm not doing this success alone.
Yeah.
Nobody that you look up to is doing something alone. Trust
Right.
me on that.
Mm-mm. No. So let me tell you something. Dr. Will, he know he my therapist.
I didn't know that. Wait a second. I didn't sign no papers. I love it.
See, little do you know he is my therapist. He know I be on that couch. No.
I was like, wonder what that couch look like over there. That's
But
good.
no, in all seriousness, um, when it does come to that, it's all about us truly serving one another. Even
Hmm.
even having like I've taken some things from I borrowed some things from you and not only applied it in my life, but also applied in some of my teachings as
Hmm.
well. Because it's like, wow, I
Yeah.
didn't even think about that. Like, okay, that's I love that because it heightens me in me loving on myself, but also through my healing process. And let me say this: I had a conversation with my good girlfriend last night, and a lot of people get confused with heal that there's a destination for healed. We all are healed. That is not true. And
Hmm.
let me tell you why it's not true. Is because you have lived through it all through your life. And so there will be mirror imaging of people that has triggered you either by voice, by vision, by sound, or something. What we do here, what your therapists do, is that they give you tools to be able to manage and handle and get through those triggering moments.
Mm.
you know and
Yeah.
so when you say always healing, we are forever healing until we go and we are buried in this earth. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. And I think that they talk about like, oh, watch the seeds that you sow, be careful. And I go, well, what was your intention with the seed in the beginning? If you ask yourself before any relationship, you go, okay, this is a seed. What do I want this to grow into? If you can't answer that question before
Okay.
you probably need to stay away.
Yes.
That's prevention. That's preventative care,
Yeah.
right? That's preventative care. That's discipline. That's discernment. That's hitting all three. And I think when you look at everybody as seeds, it's amazing what how sensitive you become to your actions and your intentions.
Yeah.
Because if
That's
not, they'll become mirrors.
yeah, that is a good analogy. Look at everyone as a seed. That is
Hmm.
such a great analogy. Oh my God. I'm a cat bar that.
You got it. Look, I hope you write a book about it. I hope you write a book about it. And just maybe let me write the forward. Let me write the
Right.
forward.
Really can't say that.
It changes everything because I look at it, I'm like, ooh, because then I'm like, if I would have saw this as a seed, I would have approached this differently, or I would have waited longer, or I would have resourced myself more before I planted that.
Yeah.
I would have done a lot more before I would have, you know. Now I'm trying to be more sensitive about it now, and it's changing my entire conversations with people.
Yeah.
It's changing me.
Wow, I love that. So, and when you say that, I have to go back to because the conversation that I had last night with one of my girlfriends that came over, we did a catch up, you know,
Hmm.
and she is a young lady that's been in the industry and she's retired as well, and she's a very talented spiritual healer. She's a spiritual and she does her thing. And we were talking about a mutual friend of ours that is going through something. And when somebody's going through something, they want to bring everybody to Naomi. That's not my no, that's not my assignment,
Hmm.
you know. And I am big on God handing me somebody personally as an assignment. And I understand. And I know right off when having a conversation with this person if I am not equipped for that person or where they at this moment and at this
Hmm.
time. But people tend to want to know, Naomi, because you can, my language is not everyone's language.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm bilingual, but you have to be bilingual too. And what I
Hmm.
learned this morning is that she is my assignment.
Wow.
And when I think about the conversations that we had, I'm like, okay, okay, okay. Yeah.
What's the seed?
What's the seed for me, for her,
Hmm.
for us?
What are you trying to grow?
I'm t- what I'm going to grow. What's going to grow
Hmm.
within her and I relationship is that the trust and the loyalty of one another to know that we can truly lean on each other and help others grow.
Mm.
Yeah.
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 And then so when once you build that trust, that leaning, what's being harvested? So when you both walk away, what are you leaving with, and what is she living with? What are you hoping?
When we leave from each other, that we can be a ripple in a dominant effect on others that's within the adult industry and outside the adult industry.
Mm.
Yeah. That they know they have a potential to go through their healing process. And their healing process has layers to it. And there is
Mhm.
a higher echelon of level of healing. And we want everybody to be here. You know
Mm.
what I'm saying? So they can
Yeah.
recognize, they can feel it, a trigger coming on already. But when that language come back, they not gonna hurt somebody from that. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So let's try to help in the healing process of those hurt people hurting people.
Yeah.
Let's help them change their language. Let's help them change their perspective. Let's help them not hit back. You understand what I'm saying? Let's
Yeah.
help them. What's that saying? Turn the other cheek.
Mm. Yeah. Yes. But I just had a whole post about this. I said, yes, hurt people, but healed people help people.
Yes.
And when we learn that, even I'm not perfect, but I am capable of helping.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is one of the best ways to see yourself.
Yeah.
And also that also heals your inner critic and your ally. You
Yes.
actually help other people. We don't
Yeah.
talk about that part. Like
No.
it's like we think that when we're healing, it's like I gotta be alone on my island in my cave alone. Like you didn't get hurt alone. So why would you get healed? Why would you not want to heal together with somebody?
Yeah.
Right? Like why would you want to
Is
heal
that true
alone?
healing? Is that true healing?
You're not people like I'm protecting my peace. I'm not gonna be by anybody. It's like, no, that means you're afraid of
Yeah.
what it's gonna mean when you actually see yourself and how hurt you really are. Which is that's my whole pioneering of all the work I'm doing is all about secondary healing.
Hmm.
If I can see you doing your healing, that's gonna actually make me question my healing.
Yeah.
And that's that ripple effect that you're talking about.
Hmm.
Is creating a secondary healing.
Yeah.
You may have worked with you had one assignment, but you affected 35 other people because of that.
Hmm.
You just helped 36 people and didn't even realize it.
Didn't realize
That's
it.
how powerful you are.
Hmm. Yeah. It's funny. I get these horrible emails, and oh my God,
Hmm.
and it triggered me last week. That's why tomorrow's show is going to be based on that from the song that I've. It's going to be Whitney Houston. I don't know my own strength, and Yolanda Adams, I Am
Mhm.
Ready. Those two songs we're gonna break
Mm.
down. So, but it came from that, and I don't want to share the whole story, but I was triggered in that moment, and
Mm.
my inner critic got to me, but then my inner ally came in like, "Boo, do you know who you are, right?" And then I said, and I laughed. I laughed about the whole thing because in that moment, I knew that you have to speak this and you have to say that because know that a lot of people are going through that very thing that you just went through.
Mm. And in mental health, when you go through trauma, what it does is it isolates you. It makes you think that you're the only person going through something. And then when you go to therapy, you realize that you're not the only person. When you go into group therapy, which I highly recommend, you hear everybody else's story and you're like, wait, so I'm not the only one having a chaotic life right now? No,
Mm-hmm.
you're suffering like everybody else. Get
Yeah,
in line.
yeah,
Now, what's your story?
yeah. And
Right?
that's y'all see me with the eyelashes, y'all see me with the hair, you see me with the makeup on, you see me like Naomi, you got you going to self like, yeah. But I tell y'all all day, man, it's something that I honor those moments because those are lessons for me to learn in that trigger
Mhm.
moment, and that's what I'm
Yeah.
embracing those trigger moments. But also, what I'm doing is I'm sharing the moments with you all to know that look, we are in. I got y'all back. As long as God give me breath to breathe, I got y'all back. Period.
Hmm.
Period. Yes. And I'm gonna bring whoever along this align with us to come along.
There's a line. There's a line. Everybody gets one. Everybody gets one.
that come along. But yes,
Mhm.
just in that moment, just thinking about that, that's why I said that I was outside this year. I was coming outside this year. Because
Mhm.
when you talked about healing and kind of like I want my peace, I did that for about a good month. I did
Mhm.
that. I did do that for a good month. And but I truly believe I needed to do that just for my um sanity.
Mhm.
Because I do come from a place of I want to help everyone at the detriment of myself.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a discipline.
Yeah.
That's really big. That is so big. And I'm so glad you acknowledge that and you also admit that
Mm,
because that lets me know how powerful you are and how powerful are you willing to be for yourself,
yeah.
right? And you do need that. You do need that space. Like it's okay to have space,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of times we don't know what space means to us until we're forced to have it,
Yeah.
or someone puts us in a position where we have to do it
Yeah.
because we've been emotionally drained from that.
Yeah.
And I call it being emotionally sober, right? Because sometimes we get emotionally drunk. We just feel. Whereas we're so full. It's like, no, you got to get emotionally sober. You got to detox for a little bit
Hmm.
just to
Yeah.
saturated.
Yeah. Yeah. I just had a question that popped up in my head, and I'm looking for the question right now. Wow. It's left. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna ask this question, and it's gone now. Oh my God. And it had to do with inner critic and inner ally. God dog it. Mm.
Was it about the nurturing aspect?
Mm. Mm-mm.
What did you remember? Did you remember in your head, your heart, or your spirit?
I want to say in my head because it wasn't in my heart.
Mhm.
It wasn't in
That means that you need to start speaking more about your view
my.
on
Mm-hmm.
it, and then it'll come back.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't finish one of your thoughts.
Yeah. Mm. All right.
Hmm.
Mm. Mm. Now I'm kind of irritated.
No, you gotta talk about it. You gotta talk about the inner critic and the inner ally. It'll come up as soon as you
Yeah.
start explaining it.
And it was with the inner critic and the inner ally. It was that. And wow. And I know what I'm doing right now. Right now, I'm trying to go directly to that I'm talking about. So I can't concentrate. And let me tell you
Right.
something. This is happening in real time right now, like literally happening in real time. I am trying to find what the hell that I was thinking, and not on the. I can't even concentrate on the conversation anymore. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm so trying to get this, what I missed in my head in the beginning. And it's driving me crazy. And it's driving me
I
crazy.
have a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm curious about what does the critic how does the critic envy the ally, and how does the ally envy the critic?
For me, how does the critic envy
Envy
the
the ally.
how does
Hmm.
the critic envy the, that's a good question. How does the critic envy the ally? What I see, what I
Hmm.
feel is that with the ally, it's because it feels like the critic has a better relationship with that person than the ally does, because that person reacts more with the critic than
Mm.
the ally does. And then
Ooh.
for the critic, for the ally, is because the ally gives a sense of happiness and peace that the critic can't get. That's my
Mm.
answer. Okay.
I love how relational that sounds. That's so relational. Oh, yeah, you're so relationally focused. That's so good. That's great. That's so relational. That's so mushy. That's great. Like I see it as like a couples therapy session.
Mhm. That was a good ass question, Dr. Weir.
That was a good as answer. I was like, woo, that was great. Yeah, that was so relational.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
we do have to, and we have to have that relationship with ourselves for us to have anything good with anybody out there in the world. And so when I sit and I think about it, it's like I've had a lot of work, that inner work that I did with myself.
Mm,
And when I think about it, I think about the times when I used to be in my car driving to work. I used to have hour-long drive, 2-hour-long conversations with God, praying,
mm,
talking. And that just prepared me for here. You know what I'm saying? Just
yeah.
prepared me for this moment. And I didn't even know it. I didn't even know it, Dr. Will. And it
Wow.
was like, yes, I am, things that I've been through, I cannot get it out of a book. Right now,
Mm,
I'm taking a new course right now, and it's so amazing. But then this thing is like, no, this ain't supposed to happen like this. It's because I'm taking it from, that
mhm.
is book form, that is educational wise.
Right.
I've lived that through my experience in life, and you can't take that away from
You've
any.
already colored your book. You already colored your coloring book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. And with this other certification, and I get this a lot. Why do you think you need more certification? I just need to put the dot on the I and cross the T and put the explanation on the end of it. Period.
Mm,
So I can frame it all up. And I'm not talking about the degree. I'm talking about frame up my picture, my image of self,
mm,
or who I am. And it can
mhm.
sit up on that wall like, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that, because the truth is that you're always going to be evolving. You're always going to be changing. Your mindset's going to be changing. You keep raising your frequency. You're going to meet other like minds that are waiting for you,
Yeah.
right? And then there's people that you're waiting for too.
Hmm.
And so I think a lot of times we don't consider what does investment look like in change.
Yeah.
We always think about reciprocity, but we never think about investment. And a lot of people talk about reciprocity so much because they want back what they're putting out. I'm like, what if you're supposed to get something better? Maybe
Mm,
that's why you're not happy,
yeah. Mm. Hmm.
because reciprocity wasn't actually good, because what you put out was not really meant for you to get back. It's actually an investment, not reciprocity you were looking for.
I like that. I like that. I like that. So I guess now after this show, my listeners, I would want you to have that different conversation with yourself. Go
Mm,
back to what Dr. Will said. Ask that inner critic, what you want from me? Let's sit down. Let's look in that mirror. Let's have that conversation. Then have it with your inner ally and say, how can we do this dance together? How can
mhm,
all three of us collectively collectively make this a success story within ourselves? How can we do that?
mhm.
Because we need one another.
We do.
We need one another. We need one another to want to keep us humble. Humility, empathy, compassion, strength, success, growth, elevation. We need them both. Determination. We need them both. We need them both.
I think that's the beginning, or I call it an old new beginning.
That is why this year is the rebirth.
There we go.
Like we was in there cooking, putting them ingredients in.
Yeah.
We got it.
Yep, that's it. That's it.
We got a nice little tasty dish on this Mindset Monday. It was good, huh?
It was. I really reset. It reset me. It reset me. I'm about to be great this week. I'm not thinking about my seeds, the inner, the investment. I'm gonna be thinking about all this all week.
Yes, this was truly good for the soul. Oh my God, this was
Mhm.
good. This was some good. This was a good meal we had.
Mhm.
It truly was.
I'm about to think about all the seeds this week. I'm like, look at this seed. I don't want this seed. I was like, I don't want nothing to grow out of this one. I can't do that. I'm about to change my life up. This is so real.
God, this is amazing. Let me tell you something. So I got a whole little script over here with questions. I ain't answering not one of those questions.
Oh my God, you did.
That's what I'm talking about. It just happened. And I have to, and people are like, why you share that? Because I have to. That is who I am. I'm going to keep it to you real raw and uncut. That is what it is. And you have to, because you have to see with the authenticity. You have to see in real time what alignment looks like. You have to see in real time what that looks like, what those conversations are looking like. Just like I lost the question that I had for Dr. Will. That question probably wasn't even meant to be.
And then you just did a fire response to my question. So
I ain't even gonna worry about what that question is. I'm not even gonna worry about it. All right, Dr. Will, as always, thank you for your wisdom.
So good to be here. It's so good to be here.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Do you have any last words for? Unless you got anything coming up that you want to share with anybody. If not, then no, I'm just kidding.
No, I was like, I have a lot of stuff coming up, but I don't even know when it's coming up, but it's coming. But I'm gonna say, be kind to yourself and heal always. ALL, heal always.
Yes, beautiful. And family, in today's episode, it spoke to you. I know it did. I know it did because it's still speaking to me now. Seriously, I've learned a lot of things. I love the analogy about the seeds. Now, guys, remember that we got the workbook, the Year of the Rebirth workbook, and in our session we have podcast connection. And for me, and I ain't even done yet, this is probably one of my favorite episodes right now. So if you got your workbook with you at this moment in the time, I advise you to write this one in here. The inner ally, the inner critic versus the inner ally, with that one, with the self-criticism. And use those three things that Dr. Will talked about. I love those three things, as well as about the seeds. It was so many things that was taken from here, from this conversation, that truly can go on that page. So I challenge you all to do that now. All right, my beautiful people. So until tomorrow, I want y'all to keep loving yourselves and just truly be good to yourself. Have an amazing day. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery and empowerment here at the Season of Self-Love podcast. Remember, embracing self-love is a continuous journey, and we're so glad to have you with us. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. And don't forget to join our community on Facebook at Season of Self-Love. Connect with like-minded individuals who are also on their self-love journey. Now, if you have any questions or topics that you'd like for us to explore, we love to hear from you. Email us at seasonofselflove@gmail.com and let your voice be heard. So until next time, take a moment for yourself today and remember, you are worthy of love, joy, and all the beautiful things that life has to offer.